All right, so we got a frequency distribution. And how do we know it's a frequency distribution? Because it has classes on the left and head count on the right. Now, what do we do with a frequency distribution? Well, there's several things you can do. First thing you're going to do is you're going to find the class width, the midpoints, and all that good stuff. So how do you find the class width? Well, let me go ahead and tell you what the class width is. The class width is the width of the class. I know that sounds redundant, but how do you find the class width? Usually, I tell students to take the lower class limit of the second class minus the lower class limit of the first class, or the upper class limit of the second class minus the upper class limit of the first class. Now, what does all that mean? Well, that means over here, and I'll go back and forth with this definition, so don't spaz. This right here, this 8, is your lower class limit of the first class. Now, somebody tell me why it's called the lower class limit.
Because it's the lowest number.
It's the lowest number on the first class. That's why it's called lower class limit of 1. This is your lower class limit of the what? Second class. So if I want to find my class width, I take 15 minus the 8. And 15 minus 8 is what? 7? So 7 is the class width. Now, what is the class width? The class width is between this number and this number. Class width. Class width is between the 7, or the 8 and the 14. And this is the first thing that students ask. They'll say, well, why don't you just take 14 minus 8? Well, if you was to take 14 minus 8 in your head, what would you get? And that's not the class width. The class width is 7 because 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, what's that? 7. Class width is 7. You got to include the 8 and the 14. When you subtract, you don't include the 8 and 14. You subtract the 8 from the 14, and you'll always be 1 off from the class width. So I do not tell students to go this way. I tell students to go this way, and that way they'll be right. Unless you just want to do your own thing, and then if you get it wrong, don't whine about it. Now, you can also take the upper class limit of the second class minus the upper class limit of the what? First class. So what's 21 minus 14? What's 28 minus 21? What's 29 minus 22? If you take any one of these lower class limits, and they have to be in sequence, you can't say 43 minus 8. You can't do that. You have to go in sequence. 49 minus 42. 43 minus 36. 42 minus 35. You're going to get 7 no matter what. So, to go back to the definition, you can take any sequence. Now, sequence means in order. Of lower class limits or upper class limits, and subtract, comma, you have the CW, which is class width. Now, right now, the class width don't mean a lot to you. But it will in Math 120 if any of you come back and take Math 120 next semester or the next semester, you're going to be using the midpoint and the class width of Deviation. So that's how you find the class width. And just to recap that, to recap what class width is, just take the upper class limit, the higher upper class limit minus the lower, higher minus the lower, higher minus the lower, higher minus the lower, higher minus the lower. Any one of those, you're going to get 7. This one minus the lower, 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 this one minus the lower. No matter how you do it, you're going to get 7 if you subtract them in sequence. Now, if you subtract 43 minus 29, you're not going to get 7 because it's not in sequence. You're skipping one. You're skipping the 36. You've got to do it in sequence. Now, you can go this way if you want to. 8 minus 15 is what? Negative 7. But class width is distance. The distance cannot be negative. So 8 minus 15 is negative 7. The absolute value of negative 7 is 7. 22 minus 29 is negative 7. The absolute value of negative 7 is 7. So it doesn't matter how you do the class width, you're going to get 7. So is everybody good on the class width? All right, what is n? Well, n, I think we talked about this just a little bit. Number of items in the population. Right now, what is n right now in this class? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So n is equal to 8. 8 what? People in the class. If you count me, that would be 9. How many number of cards are in a deck of cards? I'm playing, 52. There's actually 54 plus the instruction card. But people play with 52. So anytime you're asked about probability of a deck of cards, pulling out the face card, that would be so many out of 52. N would be 52. How about the number of sides on a die? Which is one die. 6. There's 6 sides because it's a cube. So n would be equal to 6. All right. So n is the number of items in the population, or the total number of attempts. You could say that if you were in a probability. If I flip a coin 50 times, what is n? 50. If it came up to be tails 48 times, that would be 48 out of 50. And we'll get to that here in a little bit. So that's n. It can be the number of items in a population, or it can be the total number of attempts. Now, why I don't see anywhere on here that it says n, Hubert. Yeah, it does. Right here. What is that? What does this say? That's n. So this right here is n. So what do you do if you want to find the total population? Add what? The frequency is a 25-cent word for what? Head count. If I want to find out how many people are in the class, what am I going to do? I'm going to count. So what am I going to do here? Add them up, and that's n. This is x of 1, this is x of 2, x of 3, x of 4, x of 5, and x of 6. N is equal to the summation of x. So that's a 25-cent word. This is a 25-cent equation for, if you want to find n, you add up all the head counts. Or you add up all the attempts, or you add up all the observations, or you add up all the cards, or you add up all the students in the class, or you add up whatever the case may be. N is usually going to be your big number. It's usually going to be the population. So, 8 plus 2. Why did I add 8 plus 2 first? Why didn't I add 6 plus 6 first? 8 plus 2 is what? 10. And anybody can add 10. Alright? So, the most complicated number is this one, 6 plus 9. What's 6 plus 9?
15.
How many? 15. And 21 and 20 what? 7. Plus 10 is 37. That's where you get that. Class width is what? 7. The midpoint. All right, I'm going to show you how to find the midpoint. What is the midpoint? The midpoint is another word, is a 25-cent word for middle. Let me give you an example of the middle. Let's say that I give you a number line right here. Now this is real simple. And I give you a 4 right here. And I give you a 10 right there. Everybody with me? What's the middle? How'd you get that? Well, there's several ways you can get it. You can find the difference between these two and divide it by 2 and then add it or subtract it to the other. It's called interpolation. What's 10 minus 4? Okay, what's half of 6? So either I can add 3 here or I can what? Subtract 3 here and the number is, okay, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to use the midpoint formula. Midpoint is equal to your lowest number plus your highest number divided by what? 2. You're taking the average is what you're doing. Okay? So, let's go back to the original problem. The original problem says the midpoint of the second class. Well, the second class is right here. So what are you going to do? 15 plus what? 21 divided by 2. Well, 15 plus 20 is 45, plus 1 is 46. Half of 46 is what? 23. And what's the answer? They say it's 18, but that's not correct. 23 is the answer. Let's go back and look and see if that's right. Evidently, that's the wrong answer. Oh, I can't. I don't think I can. I can't fix it because if you'd sent it to me, I could fix it and we could check it. But I can't do it because that's doing your homework, so I can't change it. The answer should be 23. What is the modal class? Well, modal class is the class that shows up the most. So which of these numbers show up the most? Or how many frequency? The highest frequency is what? 9, right? So that's your modal class. In other words, 9 people have the score of 29 to 35. So that's your highest number of people. Your highest number of people is matched up with your modal class, which is 29 to 35. What is the next class? Well, add 7 to the lower class limit and upper class limit. So, add 7 here. And add 7 here. What is 43 plus 7? And what is 49 plus 7? And
counted that wrong. Somebody got 50.
No, 50 to 56 is the correct answer. That's why it's got a little red thing. You put,
I think I put 50, 55.
you put 8.
Well, I know.
So there it says you answered 8. Huh?
Midpoint would be 18. The 15 plus 21 is 32 divided by 2 is 50.
Well, what did I do? 15 plus 21 is what?
32.
What did I do? I did 50, I know what I did. I did 25 plus 10 plus 10. That's what I did. I'm sorry. You're right. 15 plus 21. I tell you what I did. I'll show you what I did. I was thinking in my head when I was doing 15 plus 25 plus 35. The reason I got 25 is I forget it. Just forget it. Y'all don't know what I'm talking about because I was doing it in my head. I'm sorry. 15 plus 21. 15 plus 21 is 25, 35 plus 1. I did 15 plus 25 plus 35 plus 45. I was thinking 25 in my head. I'm sorry. Over 2 is 36 over 2, which is 18. So yes, 18 is correct. I'm sorry. Sometimes when you're doing stuff in your head, you get numbers transposed. Does that help you on this one? Yes. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at some others on the homework. Since we're right here, let's see what else is on here. All right. Look right here. It says a car dealership is interested in the number of cars, blah, 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 blah. Taking over 40 days, blah, 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 blah. Okay, construct, here's your question. It says construct a frequency distribution with a class width of 1. Well, the first thing you want to do in all statistics, does anybody know what the first thing you do is with your data? Anybody want to take a guess at it? Put it in order. Put data. This is data because it's like test scores. Put data in order. Now, they probably already have it in some type of order. They do. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They already have it in order. Second thing you do is form your classes. Well, in this case, they already got your classes. A class width of what? 1. You start, and what's your min? Your minimum value. What's your maximum value? Class width is 1, so it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's your classes. So there's your classes. Class width of 1. Class width of 1. Class width of 1. Each one of these is a class width of 1. And then you just count. How many are in zeros? Well, 2. How many are 1s? 3. How many are 2s? Well, 5. How many are 4s or 3s? Sorry, 4. How many are 4s? 4. 5 5s. 3 6s. How many 7s? 6. 1 8. 5 9s. And how many 10s? 2. And that's how you do a frequency distribution with a class width of 1. When your class width is 1, you're not going to have a dash and then a 1 here, a dash and a 2 here. You're not going to have this. With a class width of 1, you're just going to have digits. Okay, now this is a stem leaf. The stem leaf looks like this. In other words, you have your stem right here, and then you have your leaves, or leaf over here. You put your base over here. Now, the base could be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, meaning 0 tens, 1 10, 2 tens, 3 tens, which would be 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And then you put the ones digits wherever you need to. So you put them in order. Are they in order? 21? No, they're not. So
This sucks.
let's see. 21 is your lowest though. 21. That one out. 23. 27. 26. 26. 27. 27. Any other 27s? 28. 31. 33. What else? I think it goes to 41 then. 41. Where's 37? Okay, 37. Let's see. 47, 41, 43, 45, 48, 45, 48. Where's another 48? 48, 56, 56. 61, 61, 63, 66. And then you just start counting. So how many tens? I'm sorry, how many zeros do we have? That's like single digits. Any? No. Any tens? Nope. Any 20s? Yep. We got a 21, a 23, a 26, a 27, a 27, and a 28. So that's 21, 23, 26, 27, 27, 28. How many 30s we have? 1, 3, 7. How many 40s we have? 1, 3, 5, 8, 8. 1, 3, 5, 8, 8. How many 50s we have? 6 and 6? And how many 60s we have? 1, 1, 3, and 6. So which one is that?
Priority 1 message coming in on secured channel.
It should be this one.
Okay? So these are just different ways of putting your data in. That's it. Okay, now look at this. What is the difference between a histogram and a bar chart? Well, you're going to laugh at this. You ready?
So that's 4, 3, 2, 1. I see it.
What's the difference in the two? One's connected, the other one's what? Not. One's connected. See how the boxes are connected? One's not. This is more of your mathematical This is more statistical. Now, each one, this one has 4. How many does this one have? 3. How many does this one have? 2, 1, 4. What's the end? 8 and 6 is what? Got to add them up. That's a test question right there. What is n? Or what is the population? How many here? Well, 2, 3, that's 2. That's 3. What's this? 6. This is 5. This is 4. Let's see, that's 4. And this is what, 2? Looks like 2. So what's n? Well, let's see, 6 and 5 is 11, and 8 is 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. If I counted right, n is equal to 26. And that's the answer here. You got to add them up. Number of people. That's what they want to know. How many people were surveyed? Number of people, 2, 3. Got to line them up over here. Question. And that's the same thing, just looking at your points and finding the number of calls were responded in 5 minutes. This is 5. Let's see, 4, 5. How many calls in 5 minutes? Well, make it bigger. Here's 5 minutes right here because it says response time, minutes. 5 would be right here. How many calls? 7. So you type in 7. Okay? So that's 13.3 homework. So hopefully that'll help you out. Let's look, see what else we got. And we're supposed to do 13.1.
Yes.
I don't know why the homework's not on there. It's a conspiracy. What do you think about that election last night? What?
Priority 1 message coming in on secured channel.
Does anybody know what happened last night?
Nikki Haley won.
I'm talking about nationally.
National.
The Republicans wiped everything out. They took control of the Senate and the Congress.
What?
You know what that means? That means the United States said, Washington, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And they aren't. They're giving away all our tax money and acting like, oh no, it feels good, do it. Yeah, and blame Bush. Okay, we talked about the misuses of statistics. That's why it's not in there, because
Who's running for president?
nobody.
I mean, when they gonna start?
This is the midterm.
I know, but normally you like see their face or something, like get something about it. Yeah, you're usually hearing something about them. I don't even know.
President don't start up until next year. That's when people start talking about president. This was just the Senate and the Congress. All right, I'm going to 13.4. We talked about stem and leaf. I'm looking for 13.4. 13.4. If we ever get there. There we go. Oh no, mean. Let's see how far we go though. Mean, median mode, range, mid-range. Yeah. I was going to see how far we go, see if we go to standard deviation. I want to make sure we don't go, if we could go up to quartiles. There's quartiles. I don't see standard deviation yet. Nope. I guess standard deviation is 13.5 if there is one. I don't even know if there's. Did we go to 13.5? Uh-oh. I'm going to be in trouble. Yep, there it is. Yeah, might as well forget it. Standard deviation. Yeah, we're going to have fun. Yep, that'll go over like a lead balloon, a punch bowl. All right. So, we talked about range, mid-range. So let's talk about what we're going to be able to get before we get to 13.5. You should be able, let's say we've got these 5 things. 25, let's say a data set of 7. 25, 26, 30, 32, 33, 35, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 40. So let's say these are ages of people in the classroom, all right? Or it could be IQ scores of people in the classroom, all right? We won't talk about that. All right, we want to be able to find the mean. We'll talk about that. That's a summation of x over n, and we talked about that in the last class, adding them all up, and then dividing by how many? That'd be 7. Median, and I think we talked about that. If n is even, we have to take the middle two numbers, and divide by 2, add them up, add up the middle two numbers and divide by 2. If n is odd, which this one's odd because n is 7, we just find the middle. And I'll go through that with you. Mean, median, mode. Mode, I told you meant what? Remember the first 2 letters of mode is the first 2 letters of what? Most, the one that shows up the most. In this case, we don't have a mode because all of them are different numbers, I think. Mean, median, mode, range. What is the range? Your highest minus what? The highest minus the lowest. So that'd be 40 minus 25 is 15. And we'll go through that in just a minute. And the mid-range. Mid-range is your high plus the low divided by 2. So let's go through and find. I want you to go through and find everything on the board right there. Take a minute and do that. Getting a call from the studio. Hello. Okay. So, 40 plus 35 is 75. 75 plus 25 is 100. Okay. 130, 162, 195. 195 plus 5 is 200. 221. What'd y'all get?
221.
It's a miracle. You should be able to add those in your head. Now, you shouldn't be able to do them quick, but you shouldn't have to use a calculator to do that, especially when 75 plus 25 is what?
100.
You should be able to do that. Now, 221 over what? Over 7. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Population is 7. Dang old 7 will go into 22 3 times. That'll leave 1. 1 plus 1 is what? 11. 7 will go into 11 one time. That'll leave 4. 7 will go into 4. That'll be a point 40. How many times? 5 times, 6 times, 5 times. 5 times, that'll leave a 5. And it'll keep going. 7 will go into 5. 6 times, yeah. It's going to be something like 31.56. Somebody check me. What is it?
31.5714.
Okay, 57. All right, 57. All right, so that's your mean, 31.6. Now, is n odd or even? It's odd, so I just find the middle. So what's the middle? If I'll take my handy-dandy highlighter, what's the middle?
32.
Well, 3, 2, 1. There's your middle. So 32 is your dang old median. These two are real what? Close. If the median and the mean are close, your data is tight. What does tight mean? It's valid. The data is valid. If you have a mean of 31 and a median of 86, your data is all screwed up. In other words, you need to go back and do something. You need to go back and resurvey, or you need to do something. Most don't have one, so you put NA. What does NA mean? Non-applicable. Do not put 0, because some SA teacher will go, oh, you put 0. 0's not even in the data. Don't put 0. Put non-applicable, or does not exist, or they ain't there. Put words. Don't put a number like 0, because that will be wrong. What's 40 minus 25? 40 minus 25 is equal to 15. That's your range. And what's 40 plus 25 divided by 2? No. Sound like a seal.
37 and a half.
37 and a half.
I wasn't expecting any on
My
My dog was just joking on me.
65 over 37.5, you say?
Yeah.
And that's how you find the easy ones. That's how you find the easy ones. Mean, median, mode.
We won't have this on test.
Yeah.
So, the modal, it'll let us type NA or whatever.
Huh?
On a test,
It'll say if there's not one, type in or something
Oh,
like
okay.
that. Golly, she can talk.
Me?
Yeah. I've actually heard more out of y'all today than I've heard out of the whole semester.
That's not supposed to be 37. I was about to say
It's supposed to be
that's
32.
wrong. That's supposed to be 32.5.
Why'd you tell me 37.5? You're a failure, Mr. Lassiter. I'm kidding. 32.5? Huh? That you're thinking of 75 is what you were thinking
And
of.
that's 32.5.
32.5. You were thinking of 75. That happens to the best of us. You should quit school.
It ain't your fault. You did
Yeah, it's Bush's fault.
it. You told us how to do it.
You know what was interesting last night? Massachusetts went red, and a couple of states went red that were blue. That was interesting. They couldn't get over it. I predicted it was going to be a landslide, and everybody thought I was crazy. I said, it's going to be a landslide. I said, the Republicans were going to take everything.
Who you vote for?
I vote conservative. What? I vote conservative. In other words, the government is here to protect us and help us. That's it. They're not to be our mama and daddy. And if you work, you eat. If you don't work, you don't eat. That's the way I feel.
I work, I'm
Well then, let me ask you this. When you get a paycheck,
It don't mean nothing.
okay, why? Why?
Taxes or something.
Well, what do taxes do?
It goes to elderly people that can't
It's
work.
supposed to go to elderly
But
people,
only people
homeless
that-
people, but you see people that are able to work with Escalade and they're on food stamps. What's up with that?
Oh, they do have a nice
I'm
job.
not talking about old people. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about deadbeats. I ain't got no use for no deadbeat. Yeah. It's just like the people in New Orleans, when they were giving credit cards to get a hotel room or giving credit cards, government credit cards, where did they go? Where did some of them go with that credit card? They went to the strip clubs and they went to the mall and bought purses. Be quiet. All right. So this is the easy stuff. Now, what's standard deviation? Standard deviation is basically a number added and subtracted to the mean to set up the normal, underline and put normal in quotation marks and highlight it, distribution. Now what does that mean? Well, let me ask you a question. Let's just change gears for a second. If I told you that I was a painter like painting rooms, not painting pictures, and this was your, let's say this is your house, and there's 4 or 5 bedrooms in this house, and you got, they used to make houses. My house, I moved my house. My house was a rectangle. In the 50s and 60s, they built houses 30, 40 foot by 40 foot, and then they divided it into rooms because it was easy to build. So some of you that live in a house that's built in the 50s and 60s, normally it's 30 foot by 40 foot or 30 foot by 30 foot, and then they just sectioned off, but it was real cheap to build. So let's say that this is your house and divided into rooms, whatever, but you want to paint all the outside walls, these 4 walls. Okay? And I tell you that I can paint all these walls for $500 plus or minus $100. Now what does that mean? That's an estimate. But what does $500 plus or minus $100 mean? That means that 500 is in the middle, right? And I'm adding $100 for contingency on this side, and I'm subtracting $100 for contingency on this side. So what is the actual estimate? 400 to what? $600. All right? This basically is how we use the standard deviation. We take the standard deviation, this is the mean, and this is the standard deviation. We subtract it on this side, and we what on this side? we add it. Now we don't do it just one time, we do it 2 times. So if I added another 100 over here, what would that give me? 700. And if I subtracted it one more over here, what would that give me? It would give me 300. So my price would be 300 to 700 with what being in the middle? 500. That's how you use standard deviation. Standard deviation is used to set up this number, this number, this number, and this number. 4 numbers. And they are on 2 sides, 2 on this side of the mean, and 2 on this side of the mean. That's what standard deviation does. Now, how do you find the standard deviation? Well, you have to work a little bit. First of all, I'm going to give you, this is going to be real easy, okay? We're going to do 4. Since we did 7 a while ago, let's do it even. Let's do 6. Okay, we're going to do some easy numbers so that way we can see 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. All right? We're going to do the standard, we're going to do everything with these numbers. What time is it? I got to make sure I don't run over. What time's class over? 2:10 or 2:20?
2:10.
All right, well, let me go ahead and find the mean. You got to find the mean first. So 10 plus 20 is 30, 60, 100, 150, 210. What's 210 divided by 6? Well, 6 will go into 21 3 times. That'll leave what? 30, 35. So there's our mean. All right, now this, you got to watch. I'm going to start a column here called X. And I'm going to list these. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. Now, to find the standard deviation, the first thing I got to do is I've got to do X minus X bar. X bar is another way of writing the mean. So X bar is equal to 35. So I've got to take 10 and minus what? 35, 20 minus 35, 30 minus 35, 40 minus 35, 50 minus 35, and 60 minus 35. Now you don't have to do this in a column. You can do it in your calculator, do it in your head. The number is what's important. Right here, negative 25, negative what? 15, negative 5, and here's where we start to go over. 5, 15, and what? 25. This is the numbers that you need for your calculation. You don't have to write this in the column. You just have to write this in the column. So these numbers right here technically are in this column. Now what do we do? Well, the third column is X minus X bar quantity squared. So that means I take 25 and negative 25 and I raise it to the second power, and that gives me what? 625. 15, negative 15 is 225. 5 is 25. 5 is 25. 15 is 225. And 25 is 625. I need somebody to add those up for me. Well, let's see if I can do it. Let's see. That's 250. That's 250. So that's 500. Right? 600 and 600 is 1200. 1250 is 1750. So I add them all up, you get 1750. Now I have my standard deviation. Standard deviation is equal to the summation of X minus X bar, quantity squared, over N minus 1. There is the definition of the standard deviation. Now we just found the numerator right here. So what I get, 1750. All right, so that's actually this is the variance, but we won't mess with that. Standard deviation is equal to the square root of 1750 over 6 minus 1 is what? 5. And somebody divides 1750, that's going to be 3 5 and 0. And somebody take the square root of 350. What do you get?
18.70.
I'm going to say 18.70, but I'm going to say 19 because I'm going to show you how to use the standard deviation right quick. All right, so our standard deviation is 19. All right, now this is very important. Next, we draw a curve like that. And in the middle, what's our mean? What was our mean? Oh, 35? That's our 500. Remember our $500 a while ago? And I'm going to add 100 and add 100, but this time I'm not going to add 100. I'm going to add what? What was my standard deviation? 19. So what's 35 plus 19? 44? And what's 44 plus 19? I have no idea. What is it? 63?
35 plus 19 is 54.
54, sorry. And 54 plus 19 is what? 73? What's 35 minus 19? And what's 16 minus 19? And that is your standard deviation. Two standard deviations. Everything between two standard deviations is called what? Normal. Between two standard deviations is called normal. You need to write that down in your notes. All this in here, that's normal. Between two standard deviations, and we'll talk about it more later on. I mean, when y'all come back, whenever that day is. What day is it? Monday or Tuesday or something? Monday. We'll talk more about standard deviation. All right, I know who's here. There's only like 7 of y'all here today, 8. So I know who's here. Y'all get out of here. Keep working on 13.